esteemed audience knows that I will never make my guests sit through me summarizing either your book or your biography. Why would you want to sit there as I fumble through either of those things, knowing that you're right here and could do a much better job of it? So, if you would give esteemed audience kind of an overview of your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I write books for mostly children and young adults. I started in the publishing industry a little over 20 years ago when I was a young editor out of college. And I eventually left. I worked at HarperCollins in New York and a production company called 17th Street Productions after that. And then I left to write full time. And that was a little less than 20 years ago. And I've been writing ever since. And about 7 years ago, I went to get my MFA at Bennington College. And so, and now I just sort of write, I do some editing, I do a little bit of teaching. Yeah, just my whole life is around revolves around books.
Well, it sounds like living the dream.
It feels good. It's great. It's challenging and rewarding. I love it.
Well, I want to break down some of those things you did. Before we do, I should mention, and we will definitely talk about this more, but your new book just released, 13 Witches, Book 2, The Sea of Always, available now, esteemed audience. Why wait? You could be bringing it up on probably the very device you're listening to us on, and get your copy available for you now, 13 Witches. So you come out, when did you know you wanted to be an author? What's your first memory of wanting?
Yeah, I remember, those little, I don't know what they're called, but those little, the little paper things that kids like to make where they kind of like, you write down like your kind of houses you'd like to live in. It's called MASH. Did you ever play that when you were a kid?
Is that the
MASH
one
or
where
math?
is that the origami type thing where you play with
Yes.
your fingers and move it around? Yes,
Yeah.
it's called. Thank you. I've been wondering ever since what that's called. So bash
Yes, it's MASH
or
or
mash.
math. I think there's two versions, same game. And basically the math stands for, do you want to live in a mansion, an apartment, a tree house, or a regular house? And then you have like your jobs, how many kids you might have, things like that. And this kind of origami thing predicts all those things for you in the game. And that is my earliest memory, is that whenever my friends and I played that game, I always author was always the job that I dreamed of. And I was always so excited when that one came up. And I've always written since I was really, really, really little. I especially was a diary writer. I just didn't know how to process the world without writing in my diary. It was just a major coping mechanism. And it always felt like I understood things better when I wrote them down. I'm a little bit of a slow processor. And so if I could sit and write about something, I could kind of make more sense of it. So I always did that as a kid, just to sort of navigate the world, really. And I kept diaries really until I started writing full time for my job. And then it was just too much to keep up with the diaries and the writing, and they overlapped so much. So I kind of have let that fall to the wayside over the years. But yeah, it's always been my passion for sure.
So I love this idea. You're writing just about your interactions with people and trying to kind of analyze them after the fact and figure out what went really well there, what went wrong, that sort of thing with the diary.
Yeah, I think it was a way. I was a really introverted kid, very quiet. I didn't really speak up very much, and I think it was a way of kind of expressing myself, and also just sort of navigating the pressures of that, of feeling kind of very shy, and just feeling like a lot of what was going on inside me was staying very much inside. I didn't really share it with people. And so writing it down was a way of sort of sharing and processing. And it was just a huge, I just don't know how I would have gotten through being a kid without writing, really. Yeah, it was just such a central part of how I existed as a kid.
Nice thing about one of the things about podcasting is because I'm having these conversations with people and they're recorded and I can go back and enjoy them again after the fact. I can hear like, oh, that was a really insightful question I asked. Good for me. And then other times, like, oh man, you missed it. You should have asked this. You should have asked 5 other things. Or usually you hear that. That's the sound of a guest getting a little bit annoyed because you could have been better at that moment. And I like to think that it's improving my interactions with people. So it occurred to me that I'm so glad that when we did it, because we're approximately the same age, way back when we were doing the MASH, the paper origami finger trick, that it was analog. It wasn't all online, so that it would come back to haunt us, 20 years later. Hey, it's been 20 years. Remember when you said you'd live in a mansion? How's that going? Ah, man.
I was so confident about it then. And now I'm in a tree house.
I'm not the president. Oh.
Ah, true.